Now, I bring that up specifically because one of the talking points have been like, there was this underlying conversation of like, Trump sent the FBI to raid Bolton's home, and that's just not the case. Like, they had a
He even
warrant.
said, like, when they asked him, hey, the morning of, while it was happening, while the investigation was actually occurring, he was, I think, where was he? Was he at the Kennedy
He
Center?
was at the Kennedy Center with his
And he was
hat.
like, I didn't know it
Oh
was
my
happening
gosh.
right now.
Can we just talk about the optics of that for a
Yes, it was
second?
great.
Because he's
Please,
at the
please
Kennedy
do.
Center. He's being asked about this. He's being asked about Bolton being raided. And he has this giant red hat on, of course, that says Trump was
Trump
right
was
about
right about
everything.
everything. Yeah. And he wore it during the entire Oval Office. Sorry, guys. The entire Oval Office presser.
He was
The day
announcing
before?
FIFA.
Oh, it was during
that
FIFA.
same
Okay.
day.
Yep.
Where I was like, because I stayed and I delayed my morning errands because I was like, what is he going to talk about? Because nobody knew what he was going to talk about.
Well, then they ended up being like an hour late. Thank you for nothing. Totally late.
And then
on
I'm like, oh, it's about FIFA. I'm like, okay, don't care. I know you care. I don't care. So I was very annoyed by that. However,
it was a great presser, though. Even if you don't care about FIFA, it was pretty fun. Like, there was a lot of gems in there. He had the picture of him and Putin that Putin sent him, said he might come to that Vladimir Putin might come to the World Cup. That was fun. Because just whenever those things happen, even I'm like, dude, Trump, why? But I want it to happen because it just makes the media go crazy. Like, they just go nuts. And then Trump was given the first official tickets to the finals in New Jersey, New York. And then what else happened? Oh, he just blasted Democrats on crime. He just, who did he talk bad about? He was like making fun of, Gavin Newsom. He swore
of course.
a couple times at the Resolute desk because my girls were listening to it. We were listening to it in the car and they were just like, oh my goodness. So it was a spicy presser on Friday.
Well,
I liked it.
Along those lines, speaking of the press kind of losing their mind, is the raid on Bolton's home is, we don't know 100% exactly what they were looking for. But the belief is that this stems from when he was fired by the president during the first term. Because Bolton was he a security advisor? Oh my gosh, I can't remember what he was during the first term.
He was the national.
Oh my gosh. Holy crap, hold on.
He wasn't the DNI and he wasn't. Come on, look it up.
Was John Bolton in Trump admin first term? What was John? Okay. Jeez, I can't believe National Security Advisor. Okay. So John Bolton was Trump's National Security Advisor during his first term. Now, it wasn't for long. It was like from April 2018 to September 2019. So he wasn't there for a whole long time. Mm-hmm. But he was ultimately fired, butted heads a lot, and since then has basically made a living off of criticizing Trump. Fine. Now, right after, when he left the White House during the Trump administration, he went to go and write a book. And he also took a lot of notes and stuff like that. And so it is believed, or this all stems from that time where he published that book, held his notes, which when you take notes at that level, even though they can still become top secret or a matter of national security because they have sensitive information within the notes. And also there's questions of he had some additional documents. So an investigation started on Bolton during Trump's first term. But then when Trump lost the election, just I think maybe not even 6 months into Biden's administration, they put an end to this investigation on Bolton. And it is believed that this is just picking up on that again.
Where they left off.
However, we don't know. There are some new whistleblower tips that could possibly be reactivating a probe. We've also had the recent releases from DNI Gabbard. So there's a lot of information going on right now. The Democrats are trying to say this is his retribution. This is political payback. The classic is when they continue to have Andrew McCabe on CNN to talk about this raid. Now, Andrew McCabe, a reminder, was fired from the FBI because he was one of the agents. He was for a short amount of time. He was the head of the FBI as interim, but he was fired because he was one of the ones that pushed the Steele dossier and basically gave incorrect information to force a FISA warrant. So, and that's why he was fired. But CNN still thinks he's worth speaking to, and he's going to give his 2 cents here on the raid on Bolton. So for context, you guys, they're actually talking about the post that Patel, Bondi, and Bongino made at the time that those raids began, which was basically no one's above the law, or we're going, and apparently this upset a few people. I can't. So let's
Okay.
what would you like to say
Well,
to
like, okay. First of all, 2 things. Don't act like you didn't do this exact same thing to Donald Trump, okay? They're acting like they've never done stuff like this before. Well, yeah, you have. That's first. Second of all, that's kind of the point. When he's saying this is not how the DOJ and the FBI operate, we know. And that's why we voted Donald Trump into office, and knowing that he was going to put people in these positions that don't run them the exact same way they've been run all, for the last, 5, 6, 7 decades. We want something different. We want more transparency and we want follow up. And just because, past administrations have allowed cover ups of things, and they, like he said, it looks unfavorable and there's been tensions before, but we definitely don't handle it like this. Well, that's a problem. Things need to get handled. And, he kind of says the quiet part out loud, like, this isn't how we do it, which is
well,
insinuating that these kinds of things have happened before multiple times, but they don't investigate, they don't do their due diligence, and the DOJ and FBI kind of have served at the behest of the higher ups and the different administrations to just, hush hush, we're not going to talk about things that are happening that are not above board. And that's what he said.
well, they definitely historically, they've avoided going after anyone that was considered of a higher level. You know what I
Well,
mean?
until Trump. And then it
Until
was like,
Trump. But
you
what
know,
I find ironic is like, this is unbecoming of the heads of the DOJ
right.
and the FBI. Dude, what was it? Last week, the week before was when Gabbard released memos about how FBI Director Comey was
Mhm.
leaking information to the New York Times, to Michael Schmidt, who happens to be married to Nicole Wallace of MSNBC, in order to like direct stories. Do you
Yep.
remember the time that James O'Keefe was raided, and he was interviewed, and he was like, I'm sitting there being raided, being questioned, and I get a voicemail from the New York Times, Schmidt again, by the way,
Yep.
asking me about the raid, which clearly he was given the
He knew
heads up.
about.
Also,
Oh, of course.
yeah. Also remember Roger Stone,
Yep.
who just by happenstance had CNN with a camera outside his house right when his house was being raided.
Yeah.
So
Please.
give me
Yeah. Spare us. And people
spare
know this,
me.
like the faux outrage. Actually, I believe that it's real for them. Like you saw Dana Bash's face.
Yeah.
Like since Trump has been elected, and I'm not harping on, I know I've mentioned this like about Caitlin Collins too and a couple other people, like they just have gone so sullen and sad looking. For them, I believe it really is like this is end of the world Mad Max scenario for them. They really feel like everything happening right now is unprecedented. And I want to tell them, no, it's not. All this stuff has happened 1,000 times before. They just did it in a way that wasn't transparent, that nobody knew about, that was under the cloak of the veil of like, oh, democracy dies in darkness. We're here for all of you citizens to expose these evil people. And now that someone new is in the position, and they're following up on things that were suppressed earlier, and they're disclosing now information about some really corrupt behavior, they just can't, they just
No, they can't
can't.
handle it. Well, and also, the media is all up in arms about Bolton's raid, but also they've been very, very dismissive of anything that's been recently revealed by DNI Gabbard.
Oh yeah,
So,
there's not even a discussion about it, nothing,
and
like it's a
I feel
nothing
like
burger.
you end up in a really kind of difficult situation, if I'm going to be honest here, because it is clear what happened, especially during the 4 years that Trump was out of office. It was the weaponizing of the DOJ. I mean, one of the examples we can kind of prove that in the fact that many of these cases have either been dismissed or being won on appeal because they were clearly a weaponization of the DOJ. Not even to mention what was happening while he was in office, which is being revealed by these recent declassifications
Yep.
of trying to thwart his presidency. But so then we come to today where what do you do as president? Do you go and you say, "Look, I don't wanna foment any more division because they already did plenty of it while I was in office. So I'm just gonna, like, let it slide, let it be, be forget whatever. Forgive and let live and just and move on with running the government," or, do you honestly believe that nobody's above the law? And if like, it's just a really rock in the hard place because if you go after people for weaponizing the DOJ against you, it's going to come off as retribution to the other side and as justified to your side.
Yeah, but that same side didn't even ever, none of them ever viewed what happened to Trump and all those lawsuits as retribution or as preventing him from being able to run again as like eliminating him from the opportunity to even run as president. They thought that was completely above board. And that's the problem is it doesn't matter if we don't pursue justice or if we do, they're still going to see anything that this DOJ and this FBI does as corrupt. And that's it. They couldn't even I've not been able to talk with one Democrat, and I do talk to them, shocker, who's able to say, yeah, I actually feel like what happened to Trump ahead of the 2024 election, I can't even get him to say, yeah, I could see how there might be a little bit of lawfare there. Like there's just an unwillingness to identify it as what so many people see it, and not just Trump like acolytes, like actual people who are just free thinking, who can look at the lawsuits and go, no, you know what I mean? And so I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters if you're saying this is retribution. I mean, I know my preference, but it doesn't matter if you're doing it for the right or wrong reasons. They are going to view everything that this administration's um, DOJ and FBI and CIA does as corrupt
Yeah.
or
Well,
as
and I think
a middle finger to them.
and I think that's one of the big differences with this administration, which, the Democrats and frankly a lot of people have had a hard time adjusting to, is that
Yeah.
historically like the Republicans have been like, well, let's not rock the boat, or, I don't want to be called racist, or I don't want to be called an
Yeah,
authoritarian,
this
or I don't want to be
administration
called.
is done with being a
And
quiet
yeah,
conservative.
it's like,
They're like,
call me
"Nope,
all the
mm-mm."
names you want.
Yeah,
We
I'm
don't care
coming in
anymore.
with a hammer. Yeah, for sure. Bull in china shop all the way.